Hello and welcome to this training session on digital accessibility created by the Office of Accessibility Resources and Services. This training will cover the definition of digital accessibility as well as an overview of what it looks like in a few key categories. We will discuss the new ADA legislative guidelines for digital accessibility, what the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines are, and why compliance with these guidelines is important. We will cover accessibility checkers you can use, a few important notes on the new guidelines, and opportunities for further training on this subject. So what does digital accessibility mean? Digital accessibility means that websites, web tools, and other technologies are designed and formatted so that people with disabilities can perceive, navigate, understand, and contribute to web content. There are 4 broad categories of digital content that we will cover in this session: websites, digital documents, social media, and mobile apps. The first category of digital content we will cover is websites. When it comes to websites, there are several important elements of accessibility to consider. First, any video on a website must have proper closed captions. Second, websites often contain links either to other sections of the website or to other sites or documents. These links need to be formatted so that they appear as descriptions of where the link goes, rather than as a long string of letters and numbers, or just the words link or click here. This allows a screen reader device to properly let a user know where clicking a link will take them. Additionally, any images on a website need to have alt text accompanying them, which is a short text description of an image which can be read by a screen reader. Websites need to have something called keyboard-only access, which means that the full capacity of the website can be used without a mouse and instead can be accessed using only the Tab and Enter keys on a keyboard. Finally, all website elements need to have appropriate color contrast between text or other elements and their backgrounds. The next category of digital content is digital documents. When it comes to digital documents, to be properly accessible, documents must have appropriate headings in the appropriate order, and headings must be tagged as headings. This allows a screen reader to recognize what is heading text and what is body text and read the content appropriately. Additionally, accessible fonts and appropriate line spacing should be used. Accessible fonts are those that are sans serif fonts that are not highly decorative in nature. Text should be appropriately sized as well. Images in documents also should have alt text accompanying them, and documents must also have appropriate color contrast between elements and their backgrounds. The next category of digital content is social media posts. Social media posts follow many similar guidelines to sites and documents, such as requiring video captions and alt text for images. Social media also has some unique features that require unique accessibility elements. For example, any hashtags used should be written in title case with the first letter of each word capitalized so that they can be read by a screen reader. For example, in the hashtag good day, you would capitalize the letters G and D at the beginning of good and day instead of using all lowercase letters. This does not affect the function of the hashtag. Additionally, social media captions commonly use emoticons or emojis, neither of which can be properly read by screen readers, so it's best to limit emoji use. Finally, any links in a social media post should be a description of where the link goes, rather than letters and numbers, much like websites. And be sure that links are actually active links and not just plain text. This is a common issue with social media platforms, especially in post captions. Finally, mobile apps have their own set of accessibility needs, which include ensuring the app is usable and navigable in both horizontal and vertical layouts. Additionally, appropriate color contrast between app elements and their backgrounds is key. In terms of the usability of the app, any gestures, such as finger taps or swipes, required to use the app should be as simple as possible, and buttons on the app's user interface should be clearly labeled, well spaced out, and easy to use. Finally, the layout of mobile apps should be consistent and properly functional no matter what type or size of screen is used to access it. The reason that this information is so important at the current moment and why this training is required is because the Department of Justice has updated Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act to require all public entities, including state higher education institutions, to ensure that all of their digital content is accessible. Large public entities, including the University of Central Arkansas, must be compliant with new guidelines by April 24th, 2026. So where exactly are these new guidelines coming from? The Department of Justice uses the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, often abbreviated to WCAG or WCAG, which are developed by the World Wide Web Consortium as the standards for digital accessibility. These are the standards that UCA and other institutions will need to be compliant with by April 24th, 2026. These standards spell out in great detail the specific requirements for digital accessibility. A cheat sheet with a simplified overview of the WCAG standards is available to view at the end of this training. Almost everyone who works in higher education produces some kind of digital content, which means that everyone plays a role in being compliant with the WCAG guidelines and making our content accessible to everyone. There are many reasons why complying with WCAG standards is important. The biggest is that this is now required by law via the Americans with Disabilities Act, and noncompliance can have repercussions such as fines. In addition to the legal necessity of compliance with WCAG standards, inaccessible content can prevent students with disabilities from having access to information that they need and can impede their learning. Finally, accessibly designed and formatted digital content creates a more satisfactory experience for all users regardless of disability. Digital accessibility can be complex, and not everyone is particularly technologically minded. Thankfully, there are a few different tools that UCA faculty and staff can use to check if their digital content is appropriately accessible. Faculty can use Blackboard Ally, a Blackboard tool that analyzes and scores new and existing Blackboard content and provides feedback and solutions for increasing accessibility. Staff members who are website administrators can use SiteImprove, which is a tool that analyzes websites for issues and gives an accessibility score and feedback for improvements. There are a few other things to note about digital accessibility and the new ADA guidelines. The responsibility for ensuring that all digital content is compliant with the WCAG guidelines also applies to third-party software or applications that public entities may use. This means that any third-party software, application, or other digital tool that your office or classroom already uses needs to be appropriately compliant with accessibility guidelines. Additionally, if you, your classroom, department, or office are looking into purchasing and using a new third-party software or tool, you must ensure that it is properly accessible before purchasing. Additionally, there are a few exceptions to the new guidelines to keep in mind as you work toward ensuring your content's compliance. Neither archived web content that was archived prior to April 24th, 2026, nor previous social media posts posted prior to April 24th, 2026, need to be retroactively made compliant. Lastly, while ensuring the compliance of your office or department's current website is crucial, it is also important to look into any websites your office or department may have that is not being used or actively monitored. but is still up and running or searchable. Good practice would be to take these sites down so that we don't have inaccessible content out there, regardless of whether or not these sites are being used. This training has been a very brief overview of digital accessibility and the new guidelines that UCA is required to comply with. And it is expected that you may have questions on the details of ensuring your work is WCAG compliant. To provide further and more specific details, OARS and the Web Accessibility Committee will be providing in-person and virtual training sessions on the following topics: document accessibility on September 16th and September 30th, website accessibility on October 7th and November 11th, social media accessibility on October 21st and October 28th, and one last-minute training session on February 10th. All trainings will take place during X period. Please see the Office of Employee Engagement and Enrichment training schedule for more details, and please attend the sessions relevant to your work to ensure our campus's compliance with ADA guidelines.